It's Tuesday, September 7. This is the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. Unity across continents and oceans was the theme of the historic inaugural CARICOM Africa Summit held virtually on Tuesday. Leaders from the Caribbean and Africa joined in talks geared towards deepening opportunities for deepening integration. The summit presents a reimagining of the future relations between people in Africa and the Caribbean, who are united by a shared history. The CARICOM Africa Summit follows on the declaration by the African Union of the diaspora as the sixth region of Africa. In his remarks, Chairman of CARICOM and Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda Gaston Brown said unity between African and Caribbean people would mean more effective use of each country's natural resources.
Together, we have the voting power of 69 nations in the United Nations and all of some subsidiary organizations, including the World Trade Organization. And I refer to that group as the Group of 69, the G69. We have global bargaining power, but only if we use it effectively. If we sit on that power, then clearly we will continue to be marginalized. That is why I now make the following 4 interwoven proposals for this meeting to consider. First, we should create a forum of African and Caribbean territories and states, under the acronym FACTS, managed jointly by the Secretariats of the African Union and CARICOM. Second, we should nominate this day, September 7th, in every year going forward as Africa-CARICOM Day. Third, every year hereafter, we should repeat this Africa-CARICOM Summit on this day, September 7th, to analyze the global situation and our place within it, and also to discuss initiatives and programs, and to authorize joint actions. Fourth, we should charge the Secretariats of the African Union and CARICOM to present to us within the next 6 months for approval at our meeting next year, the founding charter and a memorandum of operation of our forum, including proposals to overcome existing obstacles to trade and investment.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness said the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic has reinforced the possibilities of the African-CARICOM relationship.
Most critically, Jamaica and the Caribbean region benefited greatly from the African Union's provision of access to COVID-19 vaccines and other critical medical supplies through the innovative AMSP, which has been a game changer for the continent and for us. The Africa Continental Free Trade Area is another, creating an enabling environment for the flow of investment and tourism. For Jamaica, there is potential in the agro, industry, and logistics sector, and Jamaican companies have already invested in Africa. Opportunities also exist for scientific research and collaboration.
Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley, in her contribution, said a unified voice between Africa and the Caribbean would give strength to calls for fair trade and development opportunities.
We face the climate crisis together, recognizing that no longer can the battle be fought on behalf of small island developing states alone, but must now also reflect those countries between the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn. Why? Because regrettably, small island developing states have not been able to motivate the world to save us by telling the world that it cannot move beyond 1.5 degrees because we need an increase limited and capped at 1.5 degrees if we are to survive. The multiple storms and floods, my brother, that you have seen across Africa, and the multiple hurricanes and droughts and sargassum weed that you see across the Caribbean reinforce that we are the victims of that climate crisis that we did not create, that are the victims of the same greed that caused the extraction of wealth from our countries across both sides of the Atlantic in order to enrich those who sought to have a development projection based on that extraction of our wealth and the use of primary commodities to continue to be the basis for them to add value that way exceeds that which we receive for primary commodities. It is up to us to make these changes. We know them well. And we continue not only to face the climate crisis, as I said, we face now jointly the pandemic. And while we fight this current pandemic against the background of vaccine inequity and apartheid, against the absence of global leadership so that we could have found a way to fight the battle against the very variants, we do so conscious that there are other pandemics that are likely to confront us. And we equally fight the battle, regrettably, of access to a concessional financing that is affordable and that is capable of being the platform for our development. Why do I say so? Because at the end of the day, when a country like Ghana and a country like Greece go to the international capital markets, how do we explain them having the same international credit ratings, but Ghana having to borrow at multiple times more than the cost that Greece borrows at, simply because Greece belongs to the European Union and the international financial community values the definition of safe assets, which are within the European Union, in a way that Africa and the Caribbean do not have access to these safe assets.
Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Keith Rowley, said the summit is timely as the move for further unity comes during the United Nations Decade for People of African Descent. He noted that Africa has been an invaluable partner to the region and closer collaboration would be of mutual benefit.
We welcome the inclusion on today's agenda of trade and investment and highlight the symbiotic relationship that exists with improving transport connectivity. While digital functionality is an imperative, with online platforms such as this being ubiquitous, in-person exchanges will boost our trade, investment, and tourism activities.
Immediate former chairperson of the African Union and President of South Africa, His Excellency Cyril Ramaphosa, said the summit is an opportunity to share expertise and knowledge so as to resolve common challenges.
Just as we share a common history, we also have common challenges. We are all contending with the devastating human, social, political, and economic effects of COVID-19 pandemic. We are all working to overcome the effects of colonialism and underdevelopment by building inclusive economies and creating more opportunities for our people. We are all vulnerable to the effects of climate change through rising sea levels, adverse weather effects, and social and economic disruption. This pandemic has demonstrated the value and the necessity of confronting challenges by working together.
A CARICOM diplomatic mission will be opening soon in Kenya to serve as CARICOM's platform in Africa, with a mandate to develop beneficial relations with all countries on the African continent. The outcome of the summit will influence work to be done by the mission. Meanwhile, Jamaica has been elected to chair the Latin American and Caribbean Forestry Commission for the next 2 years. The country was elected unopposed at the 32nd LACFC meeting being held from September 6 to September 10 virtually. Chief Executive Officer of the Forestry Department and Conservator of Forests, Ainsley Henry, will serve as president of the LACFC during the 2-year period. The 2021 Reproductive Health Survey is ongoing, and the Statistical Institute of Jamaica, STATIN, says it's being done with the COVID-19 safety protocols in mind. The Reproductive Health Survey, RHS, is a household survey that looks at the fertility, contraception, and reproductive health of women and men aged 15 to 49 years. Head of the Special Projects Unit Surveys Division at Statin, Filoni Mantuk, shared some details about the project in a recent JIS think tank.
Data collection for the 2021 Reproductive Health Survey began in August and will end in December. Statin's Philone Montauk says interviews are done privately due to the sensitive nature of the information being requested.
Working at Statin, they can be rest assured that anything that they provide to the interviewer is held in the strictest of confidence. Interviewers have to sign a Secrets Act as well as a form of oath, and this adheres that they maintain the confidentiality. Anything that is disclosed to them, they have to keep it private. The tablets that we collect the data on, it's password protected. The application system is password protected as well, so it is very hard for somebody to break into the system. Any data that we collect is published in an aggregated manner. We remove all names from the data set. Anything to identify a person is removed, and any respondent will be given a unique ID number that doesn't indicate where they are or where they're from.
She also pointed out that based on how the selection is done, a respondent's neighbor would not be a part of the sample. A total of 11,080 dwellings across all parishes are slated to be visited during the data collection period.
So we'll ask questions about partnership history, questions related to fertility. So for the female, we'll ask about how many pregnancies they've had. In terms of the male, we'd ask them how many live births they have had. Questions on contraception, tobacco and alcohol use, HIV, a lot of things about their perception, their knowledge and attitudes towards sexual and reproductive health.
In light of the risks associated with COVID-19, Ms. Montauk says all interviewers and supervisors have been issued with personal protective equipment.
They've been instructed about observing the protocols. Interviews are done in private, so it's not done in a group, so it's one-on-one, and it has to be done in private because it's very sensitive information. So you and the respondent alone, and they will maintain the protocols.
The survey is being conducted by Statin on behalf of the National Family Planning Board. Melvin Pennant, PBCJ News.
Jamaica gained its independence in 1962, and since then the island has made significant strides to establish its post-colonial identity. Many ordinary Jamaicans have contributed to this ideal, as well as musicians, athletes, civic leaders, and heads of state. However, one name that readily comes to mind is the late Honorable Louise Bennett Coverley, or Miss Lou. She remains the mother of Jamaica, a giant in the field of theatre. This dramatist extraordinaire taught Jamaicans pride in their language and culture and was an ambassador that brought our culture to the world's doorsteps. Today is the 102nd anniversary of her birth, and in homage to her invaluable contributions to nation building, our reporter Marlon Samuels explores her life and work.
You know, people always ask me if I'm born in the country, if I was born in the country. And I said, no, I'm born in Kingston, born under the clock, you know. When people are born in Kingston, they say, born under the clock. Well, I was born on 40 North Street on a Sunday afternoon, the 7th of September, I'm Virgo, 1919, the 7th of September. I grew up mostly in Kingston and partly in Spanish Town. You know, while I was growing up in town, I loved it. I tell you, my mother always told me about the country and the songs and all that. And I used to hear the Jamaican folk songs on the streets all the time. The digging songs. To me, they were always digging up the streets of Kingston. Everywhere, as you go into school, you hear, "Umana heavy load," and "Chichimada." Some of them are holla, some of them. And I used to love these songs right here, and we would would listen to them and so. And I was always wondering why we couldn't sing these songs in school. There we were singing "Flow Gently, Sweet Afton," and we didn't know what was sweet afton.
As a child, Louise Bennett Coverley, more fondly referred to as Miss Lou, dreamt of being a writer.
People would say, foolishness, foolishness. Well, write what? But then if you write, when should you write, Miss Rob? Where should I work? The only place I can work with writing is Gleaner. Of course, I started writing first in the standard language about the sun and the sea and things, you know. I run along a roadway lined with trees, singing to the lazy tune of the breeze. And all that. Very bugoyaga.
As a teenager, fortune smiled on her. She got a scholarship to attend school in London, England. There she landed a job at the BBC. She got married to Jamaican actor Eric Coverley.
It was under the coconut tree, darling. It was there you took my coat from me, darling, and promised to marry to me, darling. It was under the coconut tree.
Are you sorry you gave it to me, darling? Do you want to take it back from me, darling? I'll gladly return it to you, darling, underneath that same coconut.
She was also involved in theatre. She taught, acted in, and wrote several Jamaican pantomimes.
Feel me love have lion heart. Feel me love have lion.
Feel me love will never done. Feel me love will never done. Shining like the sunshine. Only feel. If we part and never meet again. If we part and never meet again. Feel me heart keep on a beat, strong and everlasting, only for you. Strong and everlasting, only for you.
Miss Lou spent years writing and performing poetry and song. She also regaled audiences with stories that celebrated Jamaica's linguistic and cultural diversity.
The other day, one young little Jamaica fella that going at school phoned me up. I never know him, but he said that he hear about me and them reading my book into school over there, and he wanted to come see me. So I say, all right, must come. Me dear, the boy come the morning, and I say, you name Paul? Yes, Mr. Lou. I say, so I say, your book them look heavy, Paul. He says, not book is soup. I said, what? He said, I cook a pot of soup and bring for you, Miss Lou. I'm glad. So tell because you know it was gungu soup. And it was a winter day. And make me tell you, over Toronto, child, them that's out of winter. A winter pooper. Them say that them never had no winter like this your last one for 72 years. And the first 72 years. What a crisis. And me go buck it up.
Those who had the honor of seeing her perform related to not just the words used. They also connected with rhythms and sounds of her delivery, as well as the subject matter.
Credit? Me no want no credit. Me have my money in my bosom.
Queenie, you misconstrue me.
Her poems and songs were valuable, not just for the celebration of linguistic diversity. They have cultural, political, and historic value.
Miss Lou's views, Friday, February 9. Okay. Listen now. One big cascas broke out in Auntie Roach's yard about strikers, missus. Hey, the girl dim she gave out say, looks, what a way strike artist leg of broad in Jamaica nowadays, eh? Aunt Rosie but out a laugh and say, oh no, dim. And her uncle nowadays, Jamaica, they panna suffer from strikeitis. For years upon years now. For when me see the striking nurse, them picture in a newspaper what they say, with black band round them waist. Me remember so the same thing was a happen round 1966.
Her achievements changed both her life and the lives of generations to come.
A lot of our people go to foreign countries and pretend that they have just come to take. And they don't realize that they have brought a rich heritage with them to share with the people there too. And they have a lot to give to the people. And because I've always thought that if, when they talk about language and all that, we couldn't sing a Jamaican folk song and say, this long time girl I haven't seen you, come let me hold your hand. Sometimes, the children come in and say, come let me hold your hand. I said to my darling, no, it's come let me hold your hand. It's free and nice, and it's ours, that's what we say. Because I've always thought that if people downgrade our language, how is it that they don't realize that the English language is still a dialect? It is an international dialect. It is that it's known all over the world, and we respect that. But if Chaucer, the man who started to write this thing, had not started to write that, and if Chaucer was to come back now, he wouldn't understand how the language has grown. And if he were to talk, they wouldn't understand him, It's the same thing. It's a growing. And you have to start to do this.
What Miss Lou has done for me is to pave the way that me never go explain the nice things that Miss Lou did have to explain long time ago. So me just go perform, collect my money and leave. And I will always live up to a tradition because Jamaica talk beautiful, and thanks to Miss Lou for make it nice.
For the news on PBCJ, I am Marlon Samuels.
We now get the latest updates in the financial markets in this quick report from Carol Francis at the business desk for Gabriel Thompson.
Minister of Agriculture Floyd Green says 30% of vegetables, plantains and bananas were destroyed during the recent heavy rains, resulting in short-term shocks. According to Mr. Green, the ministry is crafting a recovery program that includes replanting materials such as seeds and technical support. $50 million has already been allocated to the banana and plantain sector. In Monday's trading session, the JSE combined index declined by 596 points to close at over 419,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 94 stocks, of which 36 advanced, 40 declined, and 18 traded firm. The junior market index advanced by 31 points to close at over 3,000 units. Stocks advanced for Berger Paints Jamaica Limited, Caribbean Cement Company Limited, and Caribbean Cream Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, 1834 Investments Limited, and Access Financial Services Limited. Trading firm were Carreras Limited, Express Catering Limited, and Forestry Company Limited. QWI Investments Limited was the volume leader with over 10.4 million units, followed by Future Energy Source Company Limited ordinary shares with over 4.7 million units, and Sagicor Select Funds Limited Financial with over 3 million units. In foreign exchange trading for Monday, September 6, the US dollar sold for an average $151.29. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $121.12. The pound sterling traded for $210.80, and the euro sold for an average $181.85. In market data for oil, prices were mixed on Tuesday. Saudi Arabia's sharp cuts in crude contract prices for Asia sparked fears over slower demand, but strong Chinese economic data capped losses. Brent crude futures were up 12 cents to $72.34 a barrel after falling 39 cents on Monday. West Texas Intermediate crude stood at $68.83 a barrel, down 46 cents from Friday's close, with no settlement price for Monday due to the Labor Day holiday in the United States. And that does it for this Tuesday edition of the Business Report Inside the News on PBCJ. I'm Carol sitting in for Gabriel Thompson.
Here are some some of the stories making headlines across the region. The Education Ministry in Barbados is formulating a new framework for the Barbados Secondary School Entrance Examination. Director of Education Reform, Ida Medeni, gave an update at a press briefing Monday. We get the details in this Barbados Today report.
The Ministry of Education has developed a new framework to replace the Barbados Secondary School Entrance Examination, also known as the 11+ exam. Word of this from a Director of Education Reform, Dr. Ida Medeni. Speaking at a press conference on Monday, she said the public would be given an update on its progress by month end.
We have already developed a draft framework for the new structure of the system. I know most people would have heard the government say that we are looking to get rid of the common entrance. We are looking at development of a new structure that takes the interests and the needs of all of our students into consideration. And I know Barbados is wondering what is happening in that regard. So we have developed a draft framework, which we are discussing internally now, and which we intend to bring to our stakeholders very, very shortly. Our stakeholders being our schools, our principals and our teachers, and then the general public. And once we have had feedback from these consultations, then we are going to make some final decisions which we will communicate to Barbados during the course of the upcoming year so that you are aware of how we plan to pursue the change in the structure of the system.
Dr. Denny also disclosed that officials were also mulling over the introduction of a lower first form in a bid to make up for the educational deficits suffered by students during the COVID-19 pandemic.
One of the plans that we were putting to the secondary principals is that they might have to institute lower first forms in order to deal with some of the deficits that the children came to them experiencing. So the ministry is fully in support of it because it is a suggestion that came from the ministry at the outset. And we are not saying that all schools should do this, but we are saying that when those secondary schools get the list of children who have been assigned to them in the coming days, that they need to look at both the item analysis, the content analysis, and the performance of the students that have been assigned to them and make decisions as to whether they will need to institute lower first. There are some who will definitely have to do it. There are others who may be able to get by without doing it, but we are fully in support of it.
In sports, we kick off with football. The Reggae Boys will square off against Costa Rica on Wednesday, September 8 in a FIFA World Cup 2022 qualifying match in Costa Rica. The two teams have met 4 times in Gold Cup matches. The meetings ended with 1 win for Costa Rica and 2 draws. The match is a crucial one for the Reggae Boys, who find themselves at the bottom of its group standings after defeats to Mexico and Panama. Jamaica is drawn in a group with Canada, Mexico, Costa Rica, Panama, Honduras, El Salvador, and Gold Cup champions, the United States. The octagonal round-robin tournament unveiled by the Confederation of North, Central America and Caribbean Association Football, CONCACAF, will decide the 3 teams from the region to compete in the 2022 Qatar World Cup. Each team is to play 14 matches, 7 home and 7 away, between September 2021 and March 2022. And with that, we call full time on today's package. Join us tomorrow, same time and same place, as we bring you more news right here on PBCJ, the People's Station.